I have asked many of today's women the reason to have changed their last name to their husband's last name. And here is the defense of the name change. Defense 1. It is a tradition. Just because something is a tradition does not mean it is the right thing to do or even the best possible solution. So let's take a moment to understand how did this tradition come about. Women were not allowed to work, so they were dependent on their father and then their husband. Mrs. John Smith meant covered by John Smith. In some parts of the world, women were not allowed to vote. They were not allowed to own property. So historically, a woman changing her last name represents the transfer of women's subservience from father to husband, the subjugation of women's identities to those of men. The expectation that women change their last name is deeply rooted in patriarchal marital traditions. If the tradition of male names being passed down continues, every family will unwittingly submit to the standards of patriarchy. Defense 2. But we had rather all share a family name. We can embrace a modern vision of a family where individuals form legal and social bonds out of love and loyalty instead of defining family as a group coalesced under a singular name of a male figurehead. Defense 3. Legal documentation gets so much easier with change of last name. However, according to law, women are not required to change their last name after marriage. Your marriage certificate suffices everywhere. So what legal aspects are you talking about that even the law is not aware of? Our laws have evolved, but our customs, rituals, traditions haven't. Defense 4. Well, his last name is better than mine. Well, that does not answer my question because there are a lot of exciting last names out there than your husband's last name. How about Einstein? Wouldn't that be fun? So tell me again, why your husband's last name? Defense 5. It's not a big deal, it's just a technicality, Rasika. But technicalities govern the structure in which we present and define ourselves. So next time you visit India, do not complain that you were forced to stay with your in-laws because you have allowed them to put a stamp on you. Mrs. Malhotra, the property of Malhotras. The invention of the terms Miss and Mrs. while men are born as Mr. and die as Mr. sheds light on the fact that men simply existed in the world while women were and are identified by their marital status. Defense 6. But it's just a name, Rasika. What's in a name? Yeah, that which we call rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So what's in a name? Great quote by William Shakespeare. We all know he wrote it because he put his name under it. Part of how our brains function and make sense of the vast and confusing universe around us is by naming and categorizing. Think about it. A name is not as simple as it seems. A name shapes our understanding of ourselves. A name becomes identity. When women see our names as temporary or as not really ours, and when we understand that part of being a woman is subsuming our own identity into our husbands, that impacts our perception of ourselves and our role in the world. It lessens the belief that our existence is valuable. It dissociates us from ourselves and feeds an understanding of self as relational. We are not simply who we are. We are defined by our role as someone's wife, mother, sister, or daughter. There is a small number of women who keep their last name even after marriage. But now the question is, what should you name your children? Give one of them your last name. Give them a hyphenated last name. Their middle name can be your last name. And recently I heard that children were given an entirely new last name. So Deshpande and Kulkarni's child was named DK. Cool, isn't it? And women, if the man you are set to marry extols virtues of you changing your last name, then ask them if they would consider taking yours. And then you should ask yourself if you should marry someone who thinks your identity is fundamentally inferior to his own. It's time to leave some social practices in the past. Women are not considered male property, and our structural traditions should reflect that.